welcome to another Luma Creations online production, where today we're going to talk about the creation of Little Ears. My name is Alder and I'm an associate artist with Luma Creations, and I'm going to be speaking to Oscar Carrasco, who's the artistic development lead for Luma Creations. So we're going to talk about how you came up with the ideas for Little Ears and how it ended up as the final play. So can you tell us, what was the original reason that you made up the stories? What's behind it?
Well, the reason was mainly about trying to to have a conversation with my grandson when he was little, and I have loads of things, but without making it like a school work or something like that, more like a fun thing, and thereby trying to make him aware, if not informed, but at least aware and as informed as possible, by making stories to him about himself going through adventures in past, in times I remember the stories that I was told when I was younger by different people apart from my mum and other kind of like family members, maybe the farm workers when I went on holiday in the summers, for example, down to those areas. And basically trying, because we're living in Britain, we don't live in those areas, trying to kind of like bring that world into my boys' imagination, sort of like be able to tell them things about myself without making it, like sound like, oh, I'm going to tell you about myself. Kind of like making him part of that story, getting him as a member of that whole story, that without him that story wouldn't happen, kind of thing.
And how old was your son when you first started telling him stories?
About when I was about, when he was about 4 or 5 years old, because we ran out of, I didn't have any books to read to him. That where he's kind of. So it's neither did I know what was the appropriate type of stories to tell him. So I made him and me construct the stories. So we told each other the story. That's how kind of like I came to easily solve the problem that I had, that kind of, which I didn't have access to tools and other things to getting exposed to that. So we exposed each other with that imagination. He gave me his imagination about what he was thinking about things, and I would construct different things, and he would tell me what would happen in, like, for example, this particular story that we told with the puppet show. It's about himself and about how he would decide what to do. He would decide what he would be, not let somebody else tell him what he is.
Yeah, I mean, Little Ears, the play, has very definite themes that run through it. So how did you come to develop that particular story?
It was, at the moment, I think it was about that particular story, it was around 7, something like that, 7 or 8. And he was having problems at school with interactions with other children. And also about kind of things that he was told, and he would tell me to counteract what I was telling him, just, like to contradict, because he was being told that, and I was saying, well, you're following things without knowing why you're following. You're only following them because they said you should follow them. So I didn't want him to do that. I didn't want him to be kind of like follow things. I wanted him to lead, if you like, or walk his way. And if other people would follow him, then follow him, but he would not follow others. I was very aware of that in that sense. I didn't like so much how people were kind of told to do what they were told and not have any involvement in those decisions of what should be done, what shouldn't be done. I didn't want him to be, I wanted him to be independent on that. So I use the stories to tell them things that I believed in without making it a political, you know, a party political or whatever political. I wanted him to be part of his life, part of kind of like, no, this is it's a natural thing, it's not a doctrine, as it were.
So that theme of little ears going out into the world to find himself, was that what you were trying to teach your son?
I was, but that is also taking part from the stories, the real stories of what the traditions in different, I mean, all different tribes in the Native American continent, they have different traditions of how to name children. Sometimes it's to do with what they believe in to do with the spirits of nature. So when that child is born, something happens, whether it's the season, the weather, there's a special particular storm that is unusual for the time or something like happened. So the name will be involved with that. With that, whatever happened that time. The one I gave Tito was, or I said it to Tito, was more, how would you say, what would you call it? The people that travel, that don't settle. Nomads.
Yeah.
It's more of a nomadic tradition rather than a settled tradition. So settlements they had other traditions different to the nomadic traditions. The nomadic traditions, they had to go by themselves.
Yeah.
Not all of them, obviously there's different traditions in different tribes. But the one I took was a mixture between different ones and put them all as one. But just to kind of like to tell Tito, rather than looking at little ears here, to represent Tito, I wanted Tito to kind of decide what he was going to be, and that is very. I had a lot about within the British society at the time about the if you give a name, for some reason socially you are socially prescribed a particular attitude and a particular way of acting in society because of your name. Like for example in Chile, Miguel Angel or Michelangelo is not a name. He's going to be not an angel because Michelangelo, the angel Michael, is actually the opposite way. And usually when you see a Michelangelo in Chile, it's going to be a naughty boy. It's going to be a really naughty boy. And so they kind of equate. So it's a similar kind of thing.
Yeah.
So my thing is that not you decide what you're going to be. So you need to look for your name. Because you can't let other people tell you who you're going to become.
Yeah. Now, I know you're from Chile, so I know that your culture and background are really important to you. So can you tell us a little bit about how this story and other stories relate to those traditions? I mean, you mentioned before that when you used to go on holiday, you'd speak to the farm workers and they would tell you stories. So how much of that tradition influenced the creation of this particular story, but other stories as well?
Mainly in the stories that they are mixed with more like the how would you say, the fantasy side of things, you know, like the beliefs and spirits. And for example, there's a story that they tell the peasants in the south of Chile to tell about. If you, for example, you're using skin or leather, you're working leather of a just dead animal or something, and then you discard the leather on the river, it will come to life.
Right.
And then when passers-by go by, they will cut hold of them and suck the blood.
Right.
Right, so that kind of like part of certain aspects of. I mean, nah, I've never talked to Tito about that particular story, but I'm telling you what kind of like what sort of stories that I would bring out. There's also other stories, more like historical stories. For example, the clan that I use for Little Ears is more factual. It's the Eagle clan, which two heroes in the Mapuche tribe, or Mapuche nation, sorry, it's not a tribe, it's a nation. The Mapuche nation is two names who are known by all Chileans, which is Caupolicán and Colo Colo. Colo Colo now is the name of a football team, right? But he was a chief, and he was a wise man. He was the oldest within what the Chilean society knows as a Mapuche leader. Colo Colo is the oldest one, the ancient one, and then comes Caupolicán after that. But they are members of the Eagle clan. So they are ancestors, so they are related. The Colo Colo and Caupolicán are related. The rest are the Alder, for example, reason that they don't know which one they are actually. But so trying to make the historical events in Chile or the historical figures part of what the stories. So there is a mixture of tradition. Like for example, when you look at the sign of the shield of, if you like, or the coat of arms of the Mapuche nation, which is called a cross within the circle with the sun. I can't remember, this is people, and then a star, and a moon. One of the stars looks like more like a person, right, than rather a star. It's like it's got 5 points. And that signifies something which I haven't gone into with Tito, but kind of are emerged within the traditions. Like for example, the Eagle clan the eagle is a very important bird. But not as important as the condor, for example.
Right.
Or the Wemul, which is like a deer. That they both have been incorporated to the Chilean coat of arms. And they are very important spiritual animals, which are part of the nation's spirits of guardian spirits, or if you like. They're not exactly. I'm not using the exact words, but because so don't take me into I'm kind of it's a more superficial thing I'm telling you now, because there are many of the things that I'm talking about.
It's very complex.
They're very complex, and they need a lot of study to be able to understand. So it's just brushing that and getting, because the other purpose of the stories was to get Tito interested in finding out, once he's older, to find out all those things in different ways. And it also has helped him to stand up to other people, because if they offend him, he can turn around and go, I am Native American, what do you want? Although it doesn't look like it, as kind of like first hand, if you just look at it like that, you won't identify him as Native, because his father is English, so he's got both kind of like looks. But he's being able to kind of like, I am somebody, you know? Yeah. I've got this whole kind of history behind me. It's not just me.
Now, Latin America is a vast place. So, can you tell us a little bit about the specific area that the Little Ears story is set?
Right. If you look at the map of the South America, you will see like the bottom, like South Africa in Africa, except that it's thinner down at the bottom in Americas, South America, but it's a similar shape to the African continent. So the bottom south, like, I don't know about the, let's say, it's difficult to kind of like without, because in Britain it's difficult to get the points of it.
But it's very small.
But the part I'm talking about is Chile, the south of Chile, the Lake districts in Chile mainly, the Patagonia in Argentina, and all that kind of like similar area. If you draw a straight line across from the Pacific to the Atlantic, that area all the way south, that's the area I'm talking about. It's a vast area. It's bigger than Europe, right? That area. Vastly bigger than Europe, you know,
Really,
it's huge. Man. So this was the territory of the Mapuche. In those, there are different tribes, if you like. You got the Pehuenches, you got there's many names, but they have the different stories, or rather tribes, as it were, part of the nation. The tribe I'm talking about, Little Ears, comes from Temuco, which is the area where I'm talking, which is where my grandmother was born. Well, Little Ears grandma too. And she was born there, and the stories, even though she denied it all the time, the stories were in the family that she was the daughter of a cacique. From the tribe. I'm not too kind of like, don't believe it that much, because it's a very Western perspective of what it is, and calling them chiefs and cacique. They don't have those names. You know, it's like the machi, which is a more spiritual leader, and it's a guide. They don't have leaders. The thing is, think of somebody as better than other people. You know, it's like, you're good at that? Okay, you tell us how to do it. That's how they decided things. So that's another thing that I try to tell those in the story. So those subtle things, how people were with each other. It's like, you're not a better than me. You just know more about this particular subject than I do. And I need to be guided by you because of it. But I know this more than this other thing. I know more of it than you do. So I become your guide. So there is no hierarchy between us. Yeah, you call machi, but that is your lead on that, and I respect that. So when we're talking about spiritual things, and I will bow to you. But when we're talking about hunting, you listen to me.
Yeah, everyone's got a skill that has its worth and value.
Yeah.
Okay, well finally then, we've talked about the specific story of Little Ears in this play. Are there any other stories you've created or developed that involve Little Ears as a character?
I mean, I have lots of different stories. The only thing is that I put this on paper, which I haven't done with the others, which is creating a difficulty for me, because I'm going to come up with another story for the newsletter, and I'm still kind of like struggling with putting it into words. Not the story. I've got the story. It's just putting all that into words properly, because the way I wrote this, I came up with the story was with Tito. You know, it was so I got things out of him and incorporate them into the story. So he would be part of it. He would decide what the story, where we would go. Like, for example, one of the stories that I'm trying to write for the newsletter is about him meeting a horse. Little Ears meeting a horse. Right? I've got a problem with that, because according to history, horses didn't exist in America. But prehistory now tell us that horses come from America. That they went up the Bering Straits down Asia and then traveled to the other side. But then somehow they got extinct in South America or in the Americas, but not in kind of like in Asia, in the tempests, That's why they kind of like domesticated them. So it's a conundrum how to kind of like make all that clear without making a geography or archaeological study and kind of like paper, it's like, oh, it's a story, it's a little children's story. It's a sort of how to make sure that they understand that horses went extinct.
Yeah.
But there weren't any horses after. Little Ears has to be really ancient stories. When I think about that story, if he met a horse, then this was, what we're talking about 5,000,
right,
8,000 years ago.
Yeah.
For Little Ears to have met a horse.
Yeah. It was say, didn't they? Yeah.
Although they do say that they found vestiges of the horses about 800 or 200 years ago around South America.
Right.
Yeah, but that's, you never know. I haven't heard the story in any way, so I don't know.
Okay.
But,
well, thank you. That's been very interesting to learn about how you came to the stories and why you wrote them and how you developed them and how your cultural background has influenced that.
yeah.
Okay, well that's the end of this little interview. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you enjoy watching the actual play as well, which will be out soon. Okay, thanks very much. Bye.